You play jazz before the show.
I do.
Improvised jazz? Don't
Yes.
sigh like that. What are you saying?
Well, because it's what jazz is.
Oh God, this is Jonesy. You just started.
We'll
Listen,
need about a half an hour.
you just started 3 sentences, and you started the first one. You were like, no, that he's not going to understand that. The second sentence you started and went, no, he's just not smart enough for that. The third sentence, you went, I'm giving up on that before it even forms in my face.
None of those things are true.
Oh my God. I don't understand jazz, Jonesy. I don't get it.
Well, I'm going to explain it to you very quickly.
You're going to explain jazz to me?
Yes.
I'm ready to learn.
Jazz to everyone that cares.
I care.
Okay. So when you take a song, a standard American song or any song, basically, like let's say, I don't know, but not for me.
Name any song. Just give us an example.
But not for me.
Is that a song?
Is it okay? Yes. You name a song. Name an old song that you like.
I don't know. From what period?
From the 40s or 50s.
Oh,
30s,
God.
40s, 50s, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s.
Stormy Weather. I know what that is.
Stormy Weather. Perfect.
Yes.
So what a jazz musician will do
is
he'll play the melody and the chords of that song.
Okay.
And then he will make up new melodies for those same chords. That's what improvisation is, basically.
Right.
So when Penn and I are playing all those songs before the show, they are all regular. They are all old, what they call standard American songs from the standard Great American Songbook.
Is it an actual songbook?
Well, there's not one, but yes, as a whole, it's considered the canon of American popular music.
Is there at least a list
with Irving Berlin
somewhere?
And going?
Is this like a publicly available list?
If you Google American standards, Wikipedia will give you a list of probably 1,000 songs or so.
Okay.
But
so you have 1,000. So you and Penn have 1,000 songs to start with.
Well, that's an exaggeration. Penn and I have slightly less than 1,000 songs.
How many do you have?
I certainly know. Me?
Yeah.
I probably know 2,500 songs.
Okay. That's more. That's more than 1,000.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I said if you go to Wikipedia and look for a list, there will be probably about 1,000 popular titles. I don't really know, but there's, it's everything written from Irving Berlin to the Beatles. You know,
What, it stops at the Beatles?
Well, sort of, because they weren't even American; they were slimy Brits. No, what happened was, in the late 1950s, early 1960s, with the Beatles and Bob Dylan are the main cause of this. The Beatles and Bob Dylan wrote their own material that happened to be amazing, right? And they were geniuses. Unfortunately, up until that time, there were songwriters that wrote songs for a living. There were people like George Gershwin, Cole Porter, Jerome Kern. All those people wrote songs for a living. And then popular singers would perform those songs, like Frank Sinatra, Ella Fitzgerald, Billie Holiday. They would perform those songs that were written by other people. Then the Beatles come along and write their own material, and Bob Dylan comes along and writes his own material. So the record industry says, oh, we've got a new way to do this. We'll just have these brilliantly talented singer-songwriters write their own material, and we'll record that. Now, unfortunately, what they failed to realize in that idea was that the Beatles and Bob Dylan just happened to be geniuses. They didn't account for the 1 million other average songwriters that weren't really good, but they gave them record contracts anyways, and that's changed the whole industry. So Alec Wilder wrote a book called The American Song. Now I forget the name of it, but he wrote a book in the late 1950s, and they said, why did you stop your book at the end of the 1950s? And he said, because that's when the amateurs took over. Because there was it was a market. It was like, it was a different, there was a job description. What do you do for a living? I'm a songwriter. And that's, that doesn't exist anymore. Now you have to perform your own material.
So the songs are being They're all finished. All the songs that you've played, they've all been written, right?
Right. And then what we do is we make up new melodies with those same chord changes for those songs. Now, as I won't get into part 3 of my discussion.
No, what's part 3? Listen,
but, that skips ahead to
Jonesy.
But now
we've got nothing else to do. We're here to learn. I'm here to understand jazz. Because let me tell you this: I'm learning Bob Dylan. All right, I've listened to Modern Times 9 times, so I'm pretty modern when it comes to Dylan. Okay, I basically understand Dylan now. So now I'm gonna turn my sharp intellect to improvisational jazz.
Okay. Well, if we move past the style, Penn and I play mostly what's considered bebop, which is when jazz came around. A very quick history. Jazz was I can't really say invented, but it became popular in the late teens and early 1920s, and the epitome of one of the greatest jazz musicians that ever lived was Louis Armstrong. And he played a more Dixieland traditional style of jazz. Dixieland was the name that they gave to the music. There was a really solid 4 beats to the measure, not sort of an offshoot of ragtime almost.
What's ragtime? I don't understand any of this.
Oh my goodness!
I'm trying to learn, Jonesy.
All right. Well,
I need you to hold my little tiny dragon paw as you guide me through this.
I would love to.
Just hold my little paw. Just hold my paw.
So,
Alex,
did you ever hear of Scott Joplin? I like that.
Scott Joplin. Yeah. Did he make chopsticks?
Yes. No. He wrote ragtime music. It became a popular parlor music. And back in the turn of the previous century to this last century, so the 1800s, most American homes had a piano in them. Because that's what everybody did. They played the piano for entertainment because there was no Wi-Fi. And there wasn't much cable even. So they played to entertain themselves. Learning an instrument was a part of American life.
So now we're starting with Scott Joplin, right?
Pardon me? I'm moving on to Scott Joplin. So Scott Joplin was one of the first prominent pianists, composers of this ragtime style.
Okay.
Now, there's a little, anyways. So if I move a certain way,
can you play us some Scott Joplin?
Scott Joplin wrote the Maple Leaf Rag and The Entertainer and
we need an example, Jonesy.
Well, I don't know. I haven't played that in years, but I can't.
God, I really hope you've got a laptop there and you're just pressing play on it. It will be the greatest thing.
No, look, it's an actual piano.
Oh, yes.
At a piano. But I'm very upset with myself because I lost I bought one of those iPhone holders for a microphone stand.
Yeah.
And I've never used it, and now I can't find it. So I'm using this bullshit little one that you set on the piano.
So we'll trust now. We'll trust that you'll play. All right. So we understand Scott Joplin.
So then when Scott Joplin, this is turning into a history of jazz, which is wonderful because it's much better than listening to me talk about myself. So
we're just trying to understand improvisational jazz in 20 minutes.
What's that?
We're just trying to understand improvisational jazz.
Okay. So what happened was in the 1920s, there became an offshoot of this style of piano playing that was sort of based loosely on ragtime called stride piano, which Meade, Lux, Lewis, Fats Waller, James P. Johnson, they all sort of developed around the New York City area, and they would play the same kind of like ragtime has like which is very rigid and it doesn't swing. Ragtime is eighth notes are very even.
I'm here to learn about improvisational jazz.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I'll make it even quicker. So stride piano was that became popular after
what's this?
ragtime.
Stride piano. What's that?
What's that?
What's stride piano?
Stride piano is an alternating bass line like ragtime, but it swings. So in other words, I'll give you an example. This would be a ragtimey version of Honeysuckle Rose, a famous song by Fats Waller. Right? It's very non-swinging.
Okay,
now,
I understand
Fats
that.
Waller with stride piano would play it like. Right? It's a different feel. And then that was in the late 1920s, early 1930s. Then at the same time that was happening, swing music developed, which is that idea that instead of even eighth notes, they swing, which is too much to get into right now.
However, go back to the even eighth.
Okay. So here's even eighth notes. Ready?
Yeah.
I'll play a C scale like. Now to swing that would be. See what I mean? Okay. It's just a different feel for the music. So swing became big bands, and swing became popular in the 1930s and 40s through the end of World War II. At the end of swing music, a bunch of musicians that had made their living in big bands had developed their own new language called Bebop, which was taking standard songs and extending the harmonies for the improvisation. So, in other words, if you take a song like In the Mood, which was a famous swing standard, when the solos in the 1930s and 40s, all the solos were based on the chords for that song. When bebop was developed in the mid-1940s, they decided that they could make the structure of the chord, the harmonies, they could extend it. So here's a C chord. Here is a C sixth chord. Here is a C seventh chord. Here's a C ninth chord. Here's a C sharp 11th chord. Here's a C 13th chord. And they would take these parts, these notes, and develop they would develop their improvisation on those upper structure triads, they're called.
We need examples.
I'm just giving you examples. So like, if C chord, if you're playing swing, all your note choices would be like.
What song is this?
If you're playing bebop, your note choices would be like. It's playing harmonies that are extended from the root, the original harmonies from the song. So that's the kind of music that Penn and I played. Then after bebop, you get to a lot of modal jazz, which is just was made popular by Miles Davis, which was just all your improvisation comes from like modes, which are there's this is really getting out there, but Miles Davis worked with modal jazz and modern jazz, which came about with Ornette Coleman and people in the early 1960s, late 1950s, early 1960s. So how do we
understand modal jazz? I want to be able to be like, oh, yeah, I love modal jazz.
Well, do you know the album by Miles Davis, Kind of Blue?
Yes.
That's all modal jazz, where in the improvisation is not really based. It's based on a scale, a mode, which is like in the key of C. You would play a B flat scale starting on C. So it just is a different feel to the music. But Miles would play like just like. And that's and then anyways as the 60s.
But wait. My question, like, do you find yourself humming modal jazz?
No.
Why?
Well, I just don't hum.